Good morning, ladies and germs. This is the HFR 800 camera. This is our workhorse. I paid for every single one of these out of my pocket. So you'll notice how carefully I'm handling this because I have to pay for it if it is damaged in any way. So please be careful with these cameras. You'll notice that it has a viewfinder to videotape and see what you're videotaping. You pull this viewfinder out and you look that way. Now you'll notice there's nothing happening. We have to put a battery in this thing, and the battery goes in the back. This is the battery that goes with it, and you'll notice that the bottom of it it's got a little notch there, that the bottom of it is closed out and the top is open. The little angled closed out part goes on the bottom, and the open part goes on the top when you insert it. Okay, now this is the way it works. You're going to take, it's hard to do, you're going to take the battery and very carefully find the place where find the little open spot where it pushes into the camera. There we go, like that, and you push it up until it clicks, and now the battery is in. And that means we can now turn the power on. Typically what you do to turn the power on is you open the viewfinder, and then it's got a power button right here. You hit that power button and it comes on. Now many times, some of these camera models, I have different models. Some of them, when you open the viewfinder, it comes on, and when you close the viewfinder, it turns off. But if it doesn't work that way, all you got to do is hit the power button, which is right there. Okay. Now it'll show you, if you don't have a memory card in it, it'll show a little message saying no memory card. If we're streaming, we don't need a memory card in these things. The only time we need a memory card is when we're recording. It has a slot right here for the memory card. Here's what a memory card or an SD card or an SDE card looks like. And I'm going to take this, and this is weird because I'm looking at the viewfinder backwards while I do it, but I'm going to take this, and the label goes toward the viewfinder like that, and I'm going to gently slide it into that slot, push it till it clicks, and then I'm going to pull the window over it like that, nice and snug. Now I have a memory card in here, and I can record stuff. After I've finished recording stuff, I can take the memory card out. I can pull this window open, push the memory card in, and it'll pop out. And then I can take that memory card and insert it into the computer and get my content and work with it. Let's look at the viewfinder for a minute. You'll notice that the viewfinder does not, right now it has a, let me look at it. It has a white square at the top. That means nothing is being recorded right now. To record, we have to push the record button. If you look on the back of the thing, there's a red button right here. That's the record button. If I push that in like that, two things happen. The red light starts blinking that faces the person who's videotaping, and also in the viewfinder, that white square right there turns red. So when that's red, that means I'm recording. When I push the same button right here, when I push that same button again, the red light stops blinking and the square goes white again. On some of these cameras that I have, the older models, the thing is green. The little square is green instead of white when it's not recording, it's just standing by. Now up here on the right side, you'll see it tells us we have on the battery 124 minutes, and on the memory card we've got 28 minutes available of recording time. Alright, this also has a zoom function on it, and the zoom is on top. See that knob right there? When I move this back and forth, it's going to zoom. Let me see if I can do this so you can see in the viewfinder what happens. It's going to be tough. Try it this way. Okay. So you can see we're looking kind of far away. If I can by moving this button on top, moving this button on top back and forth, I can zoom in, I can zoom out like that. So your zoom is this button on top. That's how you zoom in and out. Please, when you're videotaping stuff, don't zoom, and this is not a vacuum cleaner, okay? Some people, when they're videotaping, they take it and they just move it all over the room like a vacuum cleaner, sucking up pictures or something. And it doesn't work that way. It makes you sick when people move the camera too much. Make sure when you zoom, you do it carefully and slowly, and when you move the camera around, move it carefully and slowly. We don't need the jittery videos, especially when we're doing student life. All right, now let's look at how we operate these tripods we use with our cameras. This is a camera mount. This has to be screwed into the bottom of the camera before we can mount it using this mounting plate on the tripod. So what I do is I take the camera, and you look on the very bottom of the camera, right here, very bottom. There are two holes. One has a stabilizing stud, a little black thing right there, and the other is the screw, the 1/4 inch screw that mounts into it. So I'm going to find the threaded screw, and I'm going to put it up in there, and I'm going to start turning this knob, that knob right there, to tighten the mounting plate into the camera, nice and tight. All right, here's our tripod. This is the head of the tripod right here. Now these things are not industrial grade tripods. If you muscle them around, you're going to tear them up. And I have students have probably torn up 10 of these things, and they cost $30 a piece. That's $150 that I had to pay for because students were too rough with these things. This is what you got. Whenever you're operating a camera, you're moving a camera and doing it in a stable way, you got to use pan and tilt. Pan is where you move the camera, tilt's where you move the camera up and down, and pan is where you turn it side to side. So the way we operate the tilt on these things is we turn this handle right here and loosen it. We turn it to the left and loosen it, and now we can tilt the camera up and down very smoothly like that. And to tighten it, we turn it back to the right, and it's tight. If you tighten this and then you muscle it up and down, it tears it up. The way we use pan on these things, there's a knob right here on the side usually. You loosen that knob and you can move it side to side like that. Now these cheap tripods are not the easiest they're not the smoothest with pan and tilt. The tilt's okay. The tilt's kind of smooth, but the pan is not so smooth, so it's not very good for that. But what it does is it gives us a stable shot with the camera. Now if we move down the tripod to the base before we get to the legs, you'll see we have a little turn knob right here. And what this does is if we want to make this post go higher or lower, what we'll do is there's a knob right here. There's a knob right here, if you can see it. We're going to loosen that, and we're going to take this crank and we're going to turn it down until it goes as low as we want it to go. And you'll see we've made this thing come pretty far down. Now if you look at the top of this, this is where the camera mount goes. So we're going to take the camera. You'll see that on the camera has that square plate right there. We're going to take it and we're going to gently slide it in. It's got a knob right here that has to be loosened in order to get it in there. So to keep this in the shot and do it at the same time, it's going to take me a second. So I'm going to pull this like this and hold the knob, and then I'm going to slide this in, then I'm going to tighten it, and now I've got my camera nice and secure on that thing. If you look at this tripod, this thing is made out of aluminum. It's not commercial grade, it's not professional grade, it's a consumer grade device. The reason is I need a bunch of them, and I cannot afford $100 per tripod for industrial. So this is 30 bucks. I can get these whenever they're on sale, sometimes for 20 bucks, and this is what we use. So if you're gonna move this thing around, there's a knob in the middle right here. What you'll do is loosen that, and yeah, there we go. Loosen it, and then you can move all these legs together. And then you'll notice these are telescoping legs, and they've got knobs here. I loosen the knob, and then I can push the leg in, and then I can loosen the next knob and push the smaller leg in very carefully. Just a little bit of sticky tape on there. And then I'm going to tighten everything just like that, and then I'll do the next one, and then the next one, and then finally the third leg like this. And now I can carry this thing around pretty easily. It's nice and short and easy to carry around. Okay. When you are using this tripod, okay, don't ever, when the camera's on a tripod, don't ever move the camera itself. What you're doing is, the bottom of this camera has a little plastic plate that houses that the screw goes into. It houses the little bolt the screw goes into. It's very flimsy. If you grab cameras and you move them back and forth, you're just going to tear up the bottom of the camera, and you won't be able to use a tripod on it at all. So always when you're moving, when you got a camera on a tripod, move the tripod. Don't move the camera. Leave the camera alone. And don't carry it around by the camera and put all the weight on that little plastic plate on the bottom of the camera. Whenever you're carrying it, very carefully carry it somewhere on the tripod. Some of them have handles. This one has a nice handle. See? I can carry it by the handle. Very nice. All right, let's talk about inserting text into a video. I'm on my email now. Let me get off of that. What we're going to do is we're going to find our Movie Studio Platinum 14.0 icon. I'm going to double click on it. There we go. The Movie Studio Platinum software starts to power up. And here's our workspace that pops up. It's got an ad to upgrade. I don't want that. And here's the window we first get. It asks us about the project we want to work on. You'll notice it always lists the last 4 projects that you worked on, maybe 4 or 5. If your project is in here, your old project, you can click on one of those and your old project will pop up just like that. You can see this is the morning announcements that I did this morning. See how many tracks I have involved here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got 6 tracks involved with announcements, and that was pretty simple announcements. What I want to do is I want a brand new project, so I'm going to click on Project New. I'm going to name it Demo 1 right here in the name box, and I'm going to click on OK. And what it does is it gives me the default workspace again. It gives me a text track, a video track, an audio track, and a music track. I'm going to lay down some video first for this project. I'm just going to take Austin Dodgens, the weatherman. And you'll notice he was green screened. You learned yesterday how to green screen. Let's say that I want to do an intro. I want an intro before Austin Dodgens starts talking. So what I'm going to do is, this is my preview window to show what I'm working on. Wherever this cursor is, you can grab this cursor and drag it across, and you can fast forward to the parts you want. You can find the parts you want. See how he goes back and forth like that? Or I can click on this to go to the very end of my project. I can click on that to go, the very beginning. I can click on that to go to the very end. So I'm going to go to the very beginning. You'll notice I have a text track right here. This is where I'm going to put my text. I'm going to locate my cursor on that track wherever I want my text, and then I'm going to right click. Oops, there we go. Let's say I want to put it right here. There we go. I'm going to locate the cursor over my spot where it gives me a double arrow. Then I'm going to right click on it, and then I'm going to go to Insert Text Media. So I click on Insert Text Media, and it gives me a window that allows me to insert text. And this thing's a little clunky. You got to be careful with it, but I can highlight it, I can bold it, I can choose all different kinds of text. There's 100 different kinds and styles of text in here. I'm going to put Austin Dodgens weather. Okay, let me see what that looks like. It looks pretty good, but I think I want it to be bigger. So what I'll do is I'll highlight it. I'll go up here to the font size, and I'm going to choose 48. Whoops, too big. I'm going to go back, and I'm going to choose 14. All right. Now the way it is black and white, that's fine like that. But if I want to put some kind of background behind it, let me find a background. I go to my file folder, my file explorer. I'm going to go to my background graphics generic. I'm going to pull one of my fancy backgrounds that I've saved up. I'm going to drag it over here to Austin. I'm going to trim it by locating, I'm going to pull that over. I'm going to find the end of my text on the graphic background. I'm going to go to trim in, trim it out, and then butt Austin's show up against it. Now you look, when I highlight this, you can't see the text because it's so light. I want to make that text pop so people can read it. So what I'm going to do is, there's two icons up here. Notice on my mouse I've got this wheel here, and when I move the wheel out and in, it'll stretch everything out so I can work with more detail. Okay, so I'm going to stretch it out, and I'm going to, I've got three icons. I've got a cropping icon that allows me to make this bigger or smaller precisely. I've got a special effects icon where I can use all the special effects I can use with video. I can also use with text. And then I've got the generated media, and that takes me back to the stuff that I wrote out. I'm going to center this, highlight it, and I'm going to put an outline on it. Down here I can click on outline. I can scroll down. Here's the outline width. I'm going to make it about half width. I'm going to choose, instead of white, I'm going to choose blue, dark blue. And I can make it darker and lighter too. So I'm going to make it kind of dark. And then I'm going to X out of this. And you see how it pops a little better? If I grab this right here, the edge of this, and I pull it down, you can see it. It pops a little better. Maybe I want to make that outline even more defined. I'll string it out there and make it as wide as possible. And now you can really see it. So now I've inserted my text. I've made an outline of it. I've put a background behind it. And this is what it looks like. Austin Dodgens weather with the background. And then Austin comes in.
Good morning.
I think I want to trim the beginning of that like that. Okay. And so once we have his intro,
Good morning,
he says good morning right away. Now, here's the problem. This background is kind of quiet. I want to put some music in here. So on this track, I'm playing Austin's stuff. So everything on this track is going to play. If I lay music down on top of this, there's some audio that comes with this background video. If I lay audio down on this, it'll cancel each other out. So I'm going to click, drag, and drop that down here. And then you see the M on the track to the left, the track directions right here, mute. I'm going to click on that, and it's going to mute that out. Now all I got to do is drop a music file down in here. I'm going to find some music. I have some that I've taken from, that's Cage the Elephant. I don't want that. I just want generic stuff. So I'm going to take my music that I've laid down. I'm going to drag it and drop it over here. And it bleeds into his part, so I'm going to click here. I'm going to trim the end of it. I'm going to drag it over. And this is what we end up with now.
Good morning.
And there's Austin. Now I can also do this. I can take the end of this and drag it over. I can take the end of this and drag that over. And that's too complicated. Never mind. We'll talk about that in the next lesson.